Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another great episode of Basscast Radio. I am your host, Bryan Carter. And as always, if you're watching on YouTube, guys, which I hope you are, Hank the Bass Geek. What is happening, my brother? Welcome back to another great episode, guys. It is Wednesday night. It's recording night. And guys and gals, we have a great show for you. But before we get started, I got some quick news to talk about here really quick. For you guys who don't know, we talked about it. I've talked about it in other areas. We got picked up by Dockside Live 365. For you guys who live in Florida or all over the globe, to be honest, Dockside Live is 365 is out of Florida. They play a lot of Jimmy Buffett music and things of that nature. But started actually last week, you can listen to Basscast Radio. Now, this is on Saturday and Sunday at 10 and 11. I think he's splitting up two separate hours on the 2 days. It's the same episode, though. But, guys, thank you to them. He reached out to me. We made it happen. And this is our first syndicate. Geek, we're famous, man. We're famous. Dude.
It's crazy. First off, hello to everybody out in Florida and everywhere we're being broadcast right now. That's pretty neat.
Yes, so we're in Florida now. It's our first audio syndication, but you can still listen to or watch us really on the American Angler Outdoors Network. We're still there doing video, and you can watch us 365. I mean, each episode gets uploaded there. Alvin and them do a great job. So American Angler Outdoors, sponsor them today because guess what? It helps promote bass fishing. Yep. And like I said, there's more than just us on there. There's a lot of other shows. You can download their app to your mobile phone, whether you listen to Android or Google, Android or Apple. I would say Google, the same daggone thing. But guys, the American Angler Outdoors, appreciate them. And a lot of great things happening here at Basscast Radio. Work's paying off, Geek.
It is, and I do want to warn all the Basscasters out there. We both have faces for radio, so just be prudent.
Yes. Come on, So one quick thing, we got a big show tonight. We got a bunch of great people on with us tonight, but we got Thomas from Fishing the DMV. We got Bryan Hendricks from Ray Tucker Outdoors. And we're going to be talking tonight about the latest cheating scandals that have happened in the world of tournament bass fishing. And we're not going to I don't really want to beat this thing up as for the cheating aspect of it, but we want to talk about how this really affects a sport that we all love. I mean, really do. I mean, and, for Bryan and Thomas, I wish it was me, they make a living off of it. I mean, that's how they get paid. I mean, someone has threw a monkey wrench into their life because of what they did to go to jail. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Then we're going to have a big discussion on that. But Geek, what's happening in your world, brother?
Just the same old thing. Most of you guys will be listening to this. We put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday night. Hopefully come June we've got the schedule we think worked out, or not June but July. We're going to start pumping out 3 videos, be a slight schedule change, so we're working on that. That's about it, man. I mean, we're really just kind of just putting the nose to the grindstone, and like I say, man, living the grind. That's what we do.
Guys, want to thank everyone for coming out last weekend and fishing with the basscast.com. We have 22 anglers. Mark Wynn and Mike Nichols won that event. If you haven't checked out the basscast.com, everything is there. By the way, they are our current points leaders for the 2024 season. Cool. Our events are points events. We've always done that since I started. They're not opens because we give away free entry into our championship in December to our points winners. Plus, they get a really cool plaque from the basscast.com. So appreciate everyone coming out and fishing with us. We fire back up in October. Full schedule, you can find that on thebasscast.com as well. guys, I think we got every schedule. I mean, I know fall is right around the corner. So just a little disclaimer. I mean, not fall, but the second half, really, the season is kind of right around the corner. So I've got some downtime, just a little bit. So if you want to put your schedule on thebasscast.com, just email it to me, media at thebasscast.com. And we will put your schedule up on the website. So thank you that. One quick thing. I'm traveling this weekend. I'm going to the Major League Fishing event down on the Chowan River, Chowan, how anybody wants to say it, down in North Carolina. It's only about 3 and almost 4 hours from the house. So pretty excited about going and checking out a place I have never been before.
I don't think anybody's ever been, and I heard it's fishing pretty dang well.
Right? Yes, it is fishing really freaking well. You guys all now we upload on Thursday, so Dustin Cannell crushed them 44 pounds on day one on day one. I haven't, I can't tell you what happened today because I haven't looked. I
haven't seen the day two yet.
But yeah, so I mean, we're heading down there Saturday morning. We're going to cover the last 2 days, the most important days, talk to the winner and all the great stuff. So this will be my first Major League Fishing Bass Pro Shop Series event that's not Red Crest. So it's pretty cool, to get to hang out with everyone and get to see everybody and talk fishing. So, but also, guys, don't forget, if you got some time and you're up on the Potomac River, they got a Toyota Series event going on right now up on the Potomac River. So head on out, support local bass fishing in your neighborhood. Guys, let's get into tonight's show and let's talk about what's happening in the world of tournament bass fishing and what's going on. All right, everybody, check out. Hopefully you guys are all watching on YouTube, but man, we have got a lineup tonight. Like I said, Thomas from Fishing in the DMV, welcome back to the show. We've had him on before, but we got a newbie, Mr. Bryan Hendricks. Welcome to Basscast Radio. We said we're going to make it happen, and here we are, man.
It is good to be here. Thank you.
Guys, if you don't know, Bryan, Ray Tucker Outdoors, Monday Night Live. This is a real live radio show, guys, and they upload the episodes to all the podcast networks, so you can go back and listen to it. Bryan, you got the floor for a minute. Tell us about Ray Tucker Outdoors really quick, man. Then we're going to dive into tonight's topic.
Yeah, to do a show with a guy like that, Ray Tucker is a broadcasting legend in Arkansas. He's been in the business since the 1970s. He was the former executive director of the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. So when you go into his house, there are photographs of him interviewing Bear Bryant and Pat Summerall and John Madden.
Wow.
And he's got all this memorabilia. And so back in 2015, he approached me with the idea of doing an outdoor show, and we did that. We started it up, and I kind of thought we'd make it about 3 years, and here we are in our 8th year and no sign of stopping. And,
that's awesome.
We've been on the same station. We switched times. We finally got a Monday slot, Monday night. We were having trouble over the years being bumped by Arkansas Razorback basketball and baseball when they would. And so we got on Monday. Nothing ever happens on Mondays. So we've got that time slot to ourselves. And there's another outdoor show on the same network on a different day, but we've been around for a long time. So we cover everything outdoors, fishing, hunting, everything.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
All right. So you guys make sure you, if you're not listening over the radio, which, is new to the younger generation.
It's free too.
It's free. You can download the podcast, and I'll be honest, that's how I listen. So I haven't listened to radio in probably 5 years at least. I'm not going to lie to anybody, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, a whole lot of podcasts, because we're all traveling, covering bass fishing tournaments, and for 2 hours going down the road, hey, why not listen to some bass fishing or anything else out there? But guys, tonight we want to talk about some of the latest scandals that have been happening in the world of bass fishing. I put together a story called Moving Forward, Building Trust and Integrity in Tournament Bass Fishing. Put that up right after, I think I put it up about Tuesday or so, right after the dust had kind of settled on, what went down. I know a lot of you guys all have heard, read, I mean, it's kind of blown up out there. Not really blown up as much as we thought it would. And we're going to talk about tonight because our thoughts on why it hasn't blown up is because we already had the walleye cheating event and it kind of went mainstream. And, I had so many people like at work cheating and, that really didn't understand the whole thing about the walleye and walleye die. And they really didn't understand that it was easy for them to get away with it for so many years.
Yeah,
because
however many tournaments it's crazy.
Yeah, how many tournaments it was, because they would keep their fish. And the walleye thing, they would keep their fish where most of the people after walleye tournament were donating their fish. They were taking their weights home with them, putting them in a cooler and taking them to the house. But bass a little different.
Plus, one thing that blew that up, if I do recall, there was phone footage of that initial blow up that went viral on social media. And I think they almost had to protect those guys because everyone else was going to kill them.
Yeah, they had a pretty good system set up. There was another one that occurred in 1983 where this involved a ring of people, but they got together and defeated a bass tournament organization in Texas out of a total of about $350,000, and they were transporting live fish across state lines out of wherever they were getting them, and there were a bunch of people involved with it. So stuff happens, but I think the pervasive reality of fishing is that it is honest and done above board. And the reason I say that is because seldom are people alone. They're always being watched.
Yes.
They're all watching each other. There's people on the banks, there's fans, there's spectator boats. It's just hard not to, one of the things that always bugged me in the early days, Bryan, was, how there wasn't close scrutiny on people in boats. And so, your top anglers were winning tournaments and saying they won it on one thing when they actually used another thing. Well, technology has made that impossible because you're focused in on what they actually are using. I think the sport's probably more honest than it's ever been.
That is true. My boy Christian with my YOLO stick. I've been knowing Christian for actually, I met Christian when he first started that, and that has taken off, and everybody has a GoPro on their boat now.
Yeah.
And everybody's running it because everybody wants a big old YouTube channel like Bass Geek has up there in the corner. But, you are right. I mean, it has changed, but, the walleye thing is it was a local tournament. And I felt really bad for the walleye director because he had just taken over that tournament series. And these were his bros. I mean, these were the people he kind of looked up to and like you said, we got it all live. I mean, a camera came out, somebody recorded it, and next thing you know, it was all over the network. I mean, and it went worldwide, to be honest. Where this one, we're only getting photos of the weights.
Yeah, I think not having that video has a lot to do with that. But you talk about how easy is it to cheat with weights and everything. It's really, that goes back so far. But I mean, anybody that's been fishing for a long time can take a 15 or 16-inch bass and know what that thing is supposed to weigh. And if it's a half pound, I mean, you just know. Instinct takes over. If you're a weigh-in director or a tournament director, I think you're going to know pretty immediately, especially if people are weighing in a lot of cookie cutter style fish.
Yeah.
And then here comes these two guys. It's like, your fish are a lot healthier than these others. Let's take a look,
Yeah.
Well, I think in Japan, in some tournaments, they have metal detectors. They have another sense of security there. But again, there's only like 3 bass in all the lakes there, so they have to be a little bit more stringent with that. But
I don't think metal detectors pick up lead, though, do they?
I don't think lead is allowed. Bass Geek, you might want to help me out there, but I don't think certain leads are allowed there. But it's the fact that they have them there as another level of security. And I thought about when I saw that the first time, that's appalling. It would never happen over here. Will it be an extra layer that we're going to need over here for bigger tournaments?
Well, for example, in duck hunting in Arkansas, which is a big thing here, if you get checked by a game warden, they've got a thing. It's a magnet. I don't know about a metal. I guess a metal detector would pick it up, but they've got a magnet they'll put on your shells, and if the magnet sticks to it, you're using steel shot. You're in the law. But if it doesn't, they're going to cut that shell open because you probably got lead in it, you know?
Yeah. That was after I put that up, that was like you said, Thomas, that was a big thing that came out. They need to have a metal detectors at all tournaments. I mean, it's like, do we really, and the question is, how much are you really, you kind of think about that. Okay, one bad apple spoils a whole bunch, but how many other anglers are you going to kind of pee off and be like, oh, you don't trust me?
I mean, that's the thing. You're never going to stop cheating. Like, I mean, you look at this and like, I brought this up before we started recording, but like baseball with like the Houston Astros creating this Morse code signal crap to win the World Series, which just put more time into learning how to hit a baseball than versus this whole system. But if you put obstacles like a metal detector, people are like, well, will it detect tungsten? And we'll do tungsten next. Like, you can't stop the cheater, but it's how you punish them when it happens. And it stinks, but you have to make an example of these people.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And as far as your question earlier, like I don't know. I will say yes that the metal detectors will pick up on lead, but I'm not sure about that.
I think they do. But you go back to 1967, the first tournament, big tournament that eventually turned into BASS was held on Beaver Lake in Northwest Arkansas. Ray Scott's very first foray into it. And he spent a ton of time putting together a rules package, because that was the one thing that he was told off and on, is that, yeah, there's been fishing derby, bass fishing derbies for decades, and they're just, cheating, they're not legitimate. And so that was what he really rested his laurels on for a long, long time, was making it very to increase, to establish the integrity of the organization that became BASS. Now, we all know that for some people, a set of laws is just a basis of how do we break it, how do we get around it. And there's people that are very, very creative in trying to find loopholes. I've got kids. I raised 3 boys, and it was a constant thing. You guys spend more time trying to figure out how to get around doing stuff than you would just to do it right, So that's kind of human nature. But then there's a twisted part of that human nature that, for whatever reason, wants to get over on somebody. Maybe they're not good enough to win, or maybe they're greedy and they want to win more. I would say that probably applies to the walleye guys, because they were kind of unbeatable, and what they did worked for them for a long time, and it was very lucrative. And then they got caught, and it all comes crashing down. But even with that, did the penalty they suffer overweigh the rewards they got?
No, it didn't. Because all the guys, if you guys really looked, and I followed that all the way through, all they lost was like the boat and maybe their fishing license. I mean, they didn't really, it was no jail time. I think they got dropped all of that. So yeah, the example that a lot of people did not see, that, like you're saying, Bryan, should have been brought forward. We didn't really get to see they should have been put in jail because they stole.
They did.
And they stole a lot of people's money.
Would we all agree that there's, go ahead.
No, one of the things those guys were charged with that struck me funny was being unlawfully in possession of wildlife. And that was one of the charges levied against them. And I never saw an explanation of what that meant. I mean, just something to throw out there. That was weird.
Yeah. Go ahead, Thomas.
When I was thinking about before we started tonight, it's cheating. And when cheating pops into your head, what comes up, and then what triggers you the most? Because is it blowing your trolling motor over a spawning fishing bed? Is it putting weights in a fish? Is it having a huge house with a bunch of people that you always share information with, like certain people on certain organization trails that we all know about? Like, they're all in the definition of cheating, but for some reason, as people, there are certain ones that just stick out more, of like that. You can't do that. And is it just pushing the boundary too far, or is it truly like morally, this is where we think this is actually truly cheating, is blank at this point?
And I don't want to bring this up, but I mean, we've heard through about I hate to say it, MLF. I mean, we've heard about people just paying the fine, and just they did what they need to do, paid the fine, and went on about their business.
Yeah, what was the situation with the Cayuga Lake thing? That came and went, and I don't remember seeing a whole lot about it, as you said.
The sight fishing, was that the sight fishing deal?
Sight fishing for smallmouth, catching the same fish, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, numerous times.
So he'd went up and sight fished that bass, and then supposedly went up and, what was it, thrown a jerk bait, and didn't see that same bass. Was it sight fishing for it, even though he knew that it's right there. I mean, listen, I've been fishing for long enough to know that I know how to triangulate fish, and I don't need GPS to tell me that there's a bass on the bed if I've been caught it once.
And that's a
You know,
Pandora's box thing about the
it is.
rules of sight fishing. But as we get the technology to be so good, and I've said this a couple times on my show, sight fishing versus sight fishing with forward-facing sonar, it's the same thing. It's just on a computer screen. So would the rules and regulations for sight fishing abetting fish apply for one on scope, where you can't snag one in a tournament here, but you're allowed to here if, oh, you just happen to have a jerkbait and he missed it.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I kind of like that. So that was our first scandal. It's crazy we had two of them within a week of each other. Because like Bryan was talking about earlier about we had one transporting fish where he's transporting from a river to a lake up in Chicago. So I mean, I think the DMV, not DMV, the Game and Fish ended up catching him because I think they got tipped off by it, and I think that's what ended up going down, if I remember correctly on the story. But I mean, transporting wildlife, like like you said earlier, Bryan. I mean, it's you don't understand. I mean, he had it in a cage or a stringer. Had him on a stringer. That's what it was. Had him on a daggone stringer, and he brought him. I mean, it's like that's a big no. I mean, it's not good for the fish, not good for the environment of the fishing location as a whole. And we've always had that conversation about how it's illegal to bring fish across different bodies of different parts of water because they don't want the invasive fish in their body of water and don't know what you're bringing in. I mean, Danielle watches a show all the time where people bring animals from other countries and they won't, they'll check your stuff for bugs. I mean, because we don't want bugs into the United States that, could kill something. And we don't want fish from a different body of water brought to another body of water, especially a river to a lake.
No, that's a big no-no, yeah.
Another element of that also is that the wildlife and fisheries resources in any state is owned by that state.
Yeah.
So
yes.
The bass swimming in whatever lake in Maryland is property of the state of Maryland. If you take it over to Tennessee, you have illegally transported something across state lines that belongs to the state.
And then you have the invasive species thing, because like in my area, John Odenkirk, who ran the snakehead task force for Virginia, there was an instance where snakehead were dumped in Burke Lake, and that person, or Lake Brittle, I apologize for people listening, and I think the person got over a $50,000 fine and faced jail time. And then you had people that were dumping. It was a catfish tournament trail that were moving flathead from the Susquehanna to the Upper Potomac, which has decimated the smallmouth population up here because the Potomac is not the same size as the Susky, and they are in some litigation right now. So it is a big deal that you can mess up ecosystems by moving stuff over without common sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you talk about cheating and what's egregious and what isn't, there's a lake here called Greer's Ferry Lake. Larry Nixon lives on it. And years ago, I was fishing with some guys doing an article on drop shot fishing, and the lake was a little bit low. And we were in an area, a very popular spot called Sunrise Bay. So the lake was down a couple of feet and exposed a bunch of standing timber in there. And I was just amazed at how many fish boxes were attached to those trees just under the normal water line. So when we talk about how pervasive cheating is, and I said probably not very much these days, but then when I look back at that, at least there were quite a few people doing it that way.
Wow.
It was also about 20 years ago.
Well, go ahead, Thomas.
I was gonna say, how do we feel like technology will improve this? One thing, when I started covering kayaks on my show, the first thing from people that were boating was like, oh, what are you going to stop cheating? It's like, well, there was a Susquehanna, I think it was the Bassmaster event last year. They have AI in the app, and they discounted somebody's fish because the AI recognized the scale pattern on two fish and said, like, this is the same fish. You cannot count it twice. Yeah. Is there some way that technology, hopefully in the future, can help with weigh-in tournaments?
The one example I'll give that may be, I was in a fly fishing tournament on Kings River, Arkansas on Saturday.
Oh.
So everybody had to get they took a Sharpie and marked a code on your hand. And you had to, with each fish, you had to have your hand on that fish with your little tattoo visible. The fly had to be in the mouth of the fish, and it had to be underwater. Water had to be covering a measuring board. The measuring board letters or numerals had to be, and you uploaded this thing to Tourney X.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, well, Tourney
It's
X.
so cool.
That's cool.
And I don't
That's
know. It worked.
it does. That's that's what a lot of us have gotten used to. The Tourney X does an amazing job, and I know everybody at Tourney X, and yeah, I mean, I think and Tourney X is trying to work on that where they can host a weigh-in tournament. But like Bryan was saying, I mean, that's how the kayak guys do it. We have had it, we've had the issue in cheating. We saw that a couple years ago. And the bad thing, he's kind of local to us here in Virginia, where the guy put his hand over fish and he like altered the photo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, my question though, a lot of guys like the, 5 fish, weigh the fish, but I mean, hands down, and I think it's the reason why kayak tournaments do the length, which honestly I'm not a fan of, but I mean, I think will these cheating scandals, do you think it's going to lead to the end of the weigh-in tournaments? I mean, completely?
So
I mean,
from a government perspective, since I'm on the board for Maryland, it's going to be regulations saying because of fish mortality, we have to do either catch weigh release or catch photo release. That's what will kill weigh-in tournaments. And that's why I think MLF is like, if we can just hang in there till a couple of states put out this regulation, will be good. I don't think they care about cheating, but there is for right or wrong, and we could argue that both ways, there's a conversation to be had about fish mortality for weigh-in versus the catch weigh system.
Well, if we're going to grow the sport, I mean, and this is what I love about everybody now. Everybody is belly aching about pressure. But now, before pre-COVID, everybody's like, we got to grow the sport. We got to grow the sport. Now everybody's like, I wish these people would go home, and
has COVID and kayaking done the most to grow the sport?
That they can't have their cake and eat it too, but
Agreed.
But even with that, the catch weigh release, which I think inevitably is where we're going.
Yeah.
But at the local level, it's so, to me, unless there is some technology, because you're not going to have referees on,
you can't do it.
My Wednesday night,
No, you can't do it.
So I mean, that's sort of, is it pushing more and more that it's all just length limits at this point? I mean,
go ahead. I know Thomas asked a question a second ago about kayak fishing and COVID. And yes, COVID blew up bass fishing. We know that it blew up the bass cast. I'm not going to lie, guys. I tripled during COVID. I mean, because people want to learn how to fish. I mean, there's a lot of people want to learn the tournament side of it. A lot of people buying kayaks. Now they're all flooded, and you can buy a kayak for $100, the one that you paid $800 for. Because the market did get flooded, and everybody's bought boats, and now everybody's got them up for sale because we all went back to normal life. But I think it really did. I mean, it created a whole new generation of anglers, and because the boat market, we've had that conversation on Basscast Radio. Thomas was on that show as well. Or I had it on your show about how much inflated boat costs have become.
We predicted Yamaha buying Torqeedo.
We did.
Yeah, yes, we talked about a boat company would buy something in the kayak world, and then a week later, Yamaha made the announcement they bought Torqeedo.
Yes, gosh, it gives me chills think about it. You are correct. We did do that. But yeah, so I mean, yes, it has helped tremendously, and the world of bass fishing has grown. I don't want to go in that direction, but that has had a lot of shakeup on the kayak side. I mean, it's been a whole lot of, I don't know where it's going, to be honest. And Bassmaster has their governing body, and we have Hobie, which now has went away from and introduced trolling motors this year into it, which they introduced at the beginning of the year. And then we have, KBF, and one day maybe we'll all come together and play nice, and we'll all have the same rules. But it has helped. I mean, it has.
And the
really
reason
helped.
I said that was circle back to what Bass Geek said about weigh-in tournaments. I think when you have this huge crop of anglers that all they've known is catch, photo, release, that you've switched all of the stats on what people know is their normal now. And so
like
pre-COVID, yeah, I think weigh-in stays. But now the longer this goes and more people just know catch, photo, release, I think that changes it a little bit.
Let me ask you this, when you talk about the ease of cheating, and we run into this here a lot, is you've got two guys that have, these tournaments, Wednesday night, Thursday night tournaments on whatever body of water it is. I just got a mosquito. Where people are allowed to fish with each other over years and years and years.
Yeah.
And they do well. And, whether they're on the up and up or not, there's always, when you've got those longtime partners, there's always that little look askance of,
yeah, oh yeah,
gotta be doing something,
Oh
You
yeah,
can't fix
and
that,
in
though.
Northeast Tennessee, it is, where I'm at, I mean, there's these two guys who, are dominating, and everybody's like, they got to be cheating. They got to be cheating. They got to be cheating. That kind of happened
true.
in a tournament trail around here where they actually went out and followed them, to the point and found out that they were not cheating. But
we have that here.
there's always those whispers. But I agree. That's one of the things. Around here, a lot of people love the team tournaments, hate the draw tournaments. But to me, and then when they bring up cheating, it's like, okay, well, they seem to think team tournaments are less because there's two guys, and I'm like, look,
No, it's more.
If they're going to cheat, their buddy ain't going to turn them in. I don't understand your logic on it.
And I think my pessimistic view is there's nothing you can do at the grassroots level. It's going to happen. But if you're Bass or MLF or the old FLW, it has to be a scorched earth policy that it does not happen, and you make it not worth even trying to cheat. Period.
Yeah.
There's a group here, guys. I know I think it's called SML Smith Mountain Lake Tournament Series up here, and they do catch and release, but they do the round robin pick. On Friday, it's a Friday night tournament or whatever it is. On Thursday, they go do a live or whatever, and you don't know who you're fishing with that week until you show up to the ramp, as far as what I've been told. And that's how they do it. And, you don't have the same partner every time. And, like Geek said, that here has, a lot of guys don't like that. A lot of guys like fishing with their partner. And that happened here with Bass Nation of Virginia, because Bass Nation of Virginia for years was, you didn't know who you were going to fish with for the big events. I mean, the club events, yes, you fish with your partner, your buddy, whatever. But when it came down to making the state team or making the championship or whatever, to make it to go fish a Bassmaster Classic, you didn't know who you were fishing with. But this year or a year ago here in Virginia, and I think each governing body allows you, will allow you to do whatever. But now you fish with your best friend. I mean, and it went to that.
And my hot take, the best way to do it is you go to solo events, but you do just like with Bass and everyone else does, is you have to have a camera going full 24/7. And I've gotten so much pushback. It's like, no, you can't do that because it's hard to record. No, if there's a lag in the footage for some reason, like the tournament director gets that, and that goes into any decision. If you can afford $100,000 bass boat, you can afford a $100 GoPro and to keep it running.
Listen, you don't even have to get a $100 GoPro. Yeah. There's all kinds of knockoff Chinese versions, on Amazon that work just fine. That's what I started my YouTube channel with. So there you can find cheap, good versions that will do the job.
And that irks me to go on a short tangent where people are like, well, yeah, I don't want them to see my spots. Like, you understand with your iPhone or your Droid right now, everyone that knows where you're at, but you draw the line that they might see that stump, but you can have Siri and Alexa in your house. Like, explain that to me, please.
Right.
Go ahead, Bryan.
Sorry.
One of the, you were talking about the evolution to catch, photo, and release, and to go back the other way on our show Monday night, Steve Arison, who's the executive director of Visit Hot Springs, he's big pro fishing guy. Hot Springs has hosted, I think, 5 Forest Wood Cups, 5 or 6 Red Mountain All Americans, 1 MLF tournament. But he said that we really don't want to have, we're not really impressed with BASS or MLF right now because of formats. The way their work now is that not having to weigh in does not fill an arena, and it's not a big spectator event that does him any good. So they're going the other way. They don't want it.
Yeah, the same here. For us up here, guys, the Big Bass Tour has been it. I mean, and you do not want to mess with the Big Bass Tour. I mean, they are legit quick. I mean, they don't mind locking you up and throwing you under the jail.
And I think it's a hot take that I think the whole structure of it is incorrect, where these organizations, like, you need to pay us to come here. And I think what these catch photo releases are kind of figuring out, it's like, no, it should be flipped. It should be like, you just come here and you figure out how to make money off of our really awesome body of water that would draw anglers.
Yeah. And that's what the Big Bass Tour's done.
Do you think that's why the expo is so emphasized so much now?
I think it was in the old the old Texas style tournament before Bass took it over, where you'd have a concert. It would be a huge country thing. Like, that was a big draw to that, and it still is.
Yeah.
I mean, Major League Fishing, which was FLW, the last time I went to, I think I went to the second from last Forestwood Cup, and that's what it was. I mean, they had a country singer show up, and that was 6 years ago, I think now. And they had a country music singer show up. After he performed, everybody left. I turned around and looked in gymnasium, was empty. Because everybody's just there to see that country music singer. They didn't really care about seeing any fish being weighed.
The Red Crest this year, if you'll remember, they had a concert.
They did.
As part of the Red Crest. So,
yeah.
Now, my hot take is this. It all comes down to money when we talk about the growth of the sport and the popularity of the sport.
There you go.
And, it used to be the Forestwood Cup paid $500,000. That's big money. And then it paid $1 million for 2 years. And you thought, man, the sky's the limit now. This is big time.
Yeah.
We're getting out there with PG. I mean, not really, but you're thinking that way. And suddenly the money falls out, and now they're paying $300,000. Is it now for a major championship?
I think it's what it is.
$700,000 less than it was in its heyday. And I don't know how you can slice that any other way than to say the sport is in decline until the money gets back up.
Yeah. And I think the purses are going to be cut another 20% in the next 5 years.
Why is that, you think?
Because we haven't even hit the recession yet. Okay. We had more banks fail now than in 2008. And inflation is as high as it is. And Icon came out with a boat that's more than most houses in most first world countries. So, like, that's not a good recipe.
Yeah. Yeah. And, for me, I've said it 100 times, I think the MLF had the right recipe.
Agreed.
With the cups. You come out in an 18-foot boat, you got two 9-inch crafts. And I'm a guy that loves my crafts. I got 412s. I love forward-facing sonar. I love it, right? I'm a computer geek. That's what I do. But, being able to see these guys with no practice, get thrown on lakes or sections of lakes they have no clue about with the same stuff that 90% of Americans can't afford, and seeing why they're the best. I thought that was the coolest format. And as soon as they came out with the whole Cup series, I was like, well, they just took everything that was great and said, we're just going to keep catch, weigh, and release on a ref and do everything else the same. And
we have had that conversation about how much the recipe's changed since Major League Fishing has begun. I mean, how many? I mean, it's you don't know what's going to change from year to year. I mean,
what's scary if I was Bass, though, MLF is at a point where they can keep changing the recipe, and eventually they're going to either go bankrupt or figure it out. And Bass has got to be terrified of that, because only one of those options do they stay alive.
Yeah. And well, one of the complaints most of the pros are having is how much time pre-practice that these young kids, and this is in both. If you look at the MLF standards right now, it's the youth that's leading points.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not after this week with Dustin Connell leading day one, but for the most part,
he's still young.
They're like, well, how do we compete with these? And I've told this story. I actually have told this story, speaking to Aaron Martins in Knoxville during the big Demiki tournament on Cherokee Lake. He was talking about Jacob Wheeler, a then young Jacob Wheeler, who had been on that lake for a month, and he's like, it's hard for us to compete. So this isn't an old thing. And my option was well, let's just do wave practice, or let's just do 1 day of practice.
You said something real interesting that MLF was this, either going to figure it out or go bankrupt. In your opinion, how close are they to figuring it out, and what's lacking?
Time, I think.
And money.
They got. I'm not going to say Johnny Morris because it's not technically Johnny Morris, but they have some big backers, but they have a great product that is poorly executed business-wise. It was too far ahead of its time. This whole idea of catchway release. And then they implemented a horrific business decision in so many different ways for the product.
Explain that, please, if you would.
Which part? To keep it under an hour.
Poor execution, real fast.
So a classic example is when they bought FLW and they didn't respect any of the perks for all those anglers. That was terrible. It's a constant death by 1,000 cuts of just doing classic stupid PR nightmares one after another.
Yeah.
Bite the bullet, pay everyone, and you really gain a lot of kudos with everybody else. So just little things like that would really have gone just a long way in the beginning when everyone hated Boyd Duckett and the whole MLF thing to begin with. And everything they did for those couple of years, and even the things with Watson, it's all these little things that just added up to this eye roll of MLF. But what they have on their side is the winds are changing with catchway or catch photo release. I think if they can last, they're in the driver's seat. They really are. Maryland is talking about pushing more just from a PR standpoint, not legislation right now, catch photo release, catchway release in the upcoming years. Well, once they do that, when does Virginia do that? When does that become a domino effect? And if that's the case, and maybe the big brass at MLF know that, they just got to wait.
We've brought this conversation up before in the past, and like I said, the question really was, we kind of wondered how long would, Thomas said, we all know that Johnny Morris has his hands involved in Major League Fishing. And, it gave him an opportunity to promote his brand. He's got his hands in a lot of stuff. I mean, he really, really does. But I think a lot of it's in Major League Fishing. We always kind of wondered how long would Johnny let this whole thing go on? I mean, because it's his name's attached to it. It really is. I mean, and how long would he let Boyd run this event? And how long would he let this whole entire thing go? And, I don't know how in depth the relationship is with Boyd and,
So a classic use case scenario for this would be the NFL. And everyone in the heyday of the complaints of Roger Goodell, once the overall thought process was it's the owner's fault, that's when Goodell started to get heat. Why? Because he was no longer the whipping boy. The whole point of a Roger Goodell or a Boyd Duckett is you're going to take the slings and arrows for the people that are behind the scenes cutting the paycheck.
You're the shield.
Yep. As long as it's Boyd getting pummeled, no one else cares because they're out of the spotlight. They're loving it. It's fine. Once that changes and people start angling towards something else, I would be interested to see how quickly everything kind of changes in the media.
All right, guys, we got to wrap this bad boy up tonight because, guys, as you guys heard earlier, we are a syndicated show now, and I've been told I have to keep it under an hour. But thoughts on the future, and I said it earlier, one bad apple spoils the whole entire bunch. And what is everybody's thoughts on where we should take the sport of tournament bass fishing? I'll start with you first, Geek, up in the corner, and then we'll just work our way around.
I think overall the structure has been laid. We're always going to have, especially at the grassroots level, we're always going to have those guys who want to bend the rules enough, flat out cheat. I don't think we see that. We see some slight gray areas or tactical maneuvers at the pro level, but I don't think we have that problem in those style tournaments. I think we've got the groundwork. I think we've started the high school, the college. Now there's even the junior Bassmasters. So we're starting to build the feeder system that needs to be built. And, I think you're seeing the perfect storm of technology and youth coming together this year. I think you'd still see youth kicking butt if it wasn't for that. But I think that path needs to absolutely be continued. I think we're going in the right direction. Hopefully it pays off and we get these young people into fishing. As for the rest of us who aren't catching them on a green worm on 0.3 because 32 people are on that point anymore, we just got to suck it up and get better. There's what I say.
All right, Bryan.
I think that it's what I've been saying for a long time is that you can get all the people into fishing that you want, but there's not enough money in the pro ranks to feed them all. And so when you get up to there, you got that small tier of elite people that are making a pretty good living, and everybody else is living off credit cards and just one step away from bankruptcy. And until a league system can get set up or something similar to an NFL or an NBA model where when people get there, they can be taken care of. I think pro fishing is just stagnant. You got a lot of people that dream of doing it. But how many of them do you hear that, man, that's just great to get out and make a living fishing,
Yeah.
I think you got to get away from that mentality and become more of a professional minded business thinking person for that to happen. I don't think cheating is hurting it any. I don't think it's all that pervasive, but there's just not the money up there to support the desire and the demand for the sport to grow any more than it already is.
We're going to bring you guys back on. I want to finish you, Thomas, but I want to say this real quick. That was the dream for Major League Fishing, guys. I mean, that was what everybody promoted. That it's going to, it's going to help our sponsors. It's going to help the fishing, the biology of fishing, the catch and release, and everybody's going to get paid. And I don't think the money actually showed up like they thought it was going to show up. And, I don't think we all had enough hours in a day to watch YouTube while we all worked our 9-to-5 jobs. And like you said, Bryan, that is the ultimate, hopefully one day that could be the ultimate goal for bass fishing as a whole. But we all know bass fishing has been a pay and play. It's like NASCAR. It's like tennis. It's like golf. All those are all pay to play sports. You pay whatever the entry fee is, and wherever you finish is where you finish. I mean, go ahead, Thomas.
So yeah, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. We'll be here in another 2 hours. But yeah, I mean, once professional anglers realize that they're not entitled to their position and a Rick Clunn is not the norm, and that a Barry Sanders, or a Jim Brown, when they were in their prime and they got a little bit older, they weren't complaining like, all these 22-year-old running backs are taking my job. It's like, no, it's like an athlete has a finite amount of time. You're either competitive or you're not. And whether it's technology or something else, part of being an athlete, and it stinks, we've all been there, played sports, you have a shelf life. Yeah. And that's what makes so cool when you have a Jamie Moyer or a Tim Wakefield or something like that goes well beyond that expiration date. That's cool. But if you're a 50, 60-year-old angler, you're like, well, why can't, this is not fair. These other young kids, like, it sucks, but that's being an athlete. I don't know what to say about that. When it comes from the health of the sport, grassroots, I think it's fine, especially kayak fishing, but I agree with the economic factors, everything else. It's a lot of people chasing too few dollars.
It's, it really is the love of the sport, and it really has to be. And you really got to think about that when Joe Blow is buying up. I mean, even a aluminum boat's $40,000 brand new, and a bass boat's up to $150,000, but like the Ranger that came out this year or more. And I think that was before electronics. We kind of, and I talked about it a lot, on your show, Thomas, about the whole entire thing imploding. I mean, baseball cards had a run back in the day where everybody came out. I was a big Thomas and I are big baseball fans, and we can kind of tell that. And I grew up, loved baseball, hours of baseball, and I collected every baseball card there was out there. But the market had to explode. I mean, it really was. There was so much on the market, and we're sitting there now in the world of bass fishing where there is so much out there that, you don't want to see businesses go under, but at the same time, we need to come back to reality.
Yeah. And I also think like NASCAR got the idea of like a spectator sport. I think there's a definition there between a true sport and a spectator sport. And if it's pay to play, is it truly a sport in of itself? If you have to pay to get there, and that's the most important thing, and not just your tangible abilities, I think that's a very interesting question.
All right, guys. Thank you for coming on tonight. What a great show it was. Like I said, great conversation. I told Thomas we're going to start doing more of these, and Bryan, I'd love to have you back on as well.
Love to be on, man. I had a great time.
Bryan's got a lot of great insight. I ain't gonna say
Yes.
I don't want to say he's old or nothing because he's been around for a long time. But dude, being a writer like you, I mean, you really do have a lot of great knowledge that we don't have. So I mean, that is definitely something great to be brought to the sport because I mean, it's a lot has happened over. I've been in this for about a decade, and that's no time whatsoever. So I mean, it's lots happened.
I'll be old in a couple of years. I'm not there yet.
No, he's not, guys. Hey, I've seen Bryan at Red Crest. This dude has got the mojo going on. And Danielle says, Bryan, oh yeah, the guy with the black outfit, the whole black outfit at Red Crest. So, I mean, B has got it going on. Before we go wrap it up, Thomas, tell everybody real quick about your show. You dropping 3. You do a Monday Night Live.
I drop 3 to 4 episodes a week. It's called Fish in the DMV. We cover everything in the Maryland, DC, and Virginia area, and that includes like the skirts of North Carolina. We don't just talk about fishing. I have biologists on from all 3 states to talk about all the issues that are going on as well. Next week, we actually have a biologist from Clemson talking about the Alabama bass invasion and how that's affecting a lot of our fisheries as well. So go check it out.
That's going to be a great show, and I can't wait to listen to that myself because that's really a big thing up here. So go ahead, B.
Hey, Arkansas, the Ray Tucker's Arkansas Outdoors is available on YouTube if you want to pull up the shows from there. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette is paid, got a paywall, so it's hard to get to my stuff. But sometimes you can, sometimes it's available for free. But COVID did a great thing. It was great for my page. We were talking about that earlier. My space went up.
Yep.
The newspaper outdoor writer is a dying breed, but I actually kept my space and doing good. And the future of fishing, we promote it. We do what we can, but like you say, there's just business forces involved. And do we talk, we have to make a distinction between recreational fishing, mid-level tournament fishing, professional tournament fishing, and they're all different animals, different needs, different business models, different models altogether. Man, I'm just all about fishing. When it comes down to it, I don't care what it pays. I'm out doing it.
There you guys go. All right, guys, we'll be right back. And I appreciate all you guys coming on. And we're going to do this again. I keep saying this, but I love this, the whole conversation thing here. I mean, it's really cool because there's always a topic to talk about in the world of bass fishing. You guys help us create more topics. So you guys keep doing what you're doing, and we'll keep talking about it. All right, guys, really great show. Like I said, I want to start doing more of these here on Basscast Radio. At least might start throwing in one a month because I think we got a good setup. Thomas DMV, bringing on Bryan tonight, getting another perspective because Bryan has been around a little bit longer than the rest of us, and he's a cool dude on top of that and got a lot of great stories. But I appreciate Bryan Hendricks coming on with us from Ray Tucker Outdoors and Thomas for Fishing the DMV. 2 great shows. Make sure you guys tune in and check them out on whether you want to do it on YouTube or anywhere you listen to your podcast network. Appreciate you guys all listening. We got Major League Fishing happening right now. I think we got about another week. We got another Bassmaster event. They're down in Alabama, aren't they? They're down that way, and I think they got 2 events in Alabama, and then they head north.
Yep.
So, and it's almost 2 back-to-backs because you get like a week off. Well, not really a week off because they got practice in the middle. So it's a lot of great fishing on the way here. thebasscast.com. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Head on over, hit the follow button for Geek and Basscast Radio, guys. Whether you listen to us on a podcast network or you listen to us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. It helps all of us out here. And guys, the American Angler Outdoors, as well, excuse me, as well as Dockside Live 365. And if you guys talk about that, if you guys are big, it's not my music. I ain't gonna lie to you guys, because it's a different world down in Florida than it is up here in, Sweet Home Alabama, up here in Southern rock music neighborhood. But guys, they've got a great show going on down there. It's Music 365. They got Basscast Radio, and I think he told me he's got 2 other shows that they air on their network as well. There's an app being created for the Dockside Live 365, so you can listen there, and a lot of other great ways as well. I listen to it on my computer. So if you guys are big Margaritaville, it's always a party down in Florida, and they bring the party.
Yeah, I like Florida. I like the beach. I ain't going to get to go this year, but we got a goal. We want to be full time on YouTube and fishing, and that'll help us learn more, teach more, and that is the goal.
We'll probably take a small vacation like we always have been doing, but we're gonna we're doing some renovations on the upper level here that haven't been done quite a while, and that's our goal this year. And so appreciate you guys listening. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be with you guys next week right here on Basscast Radio.